Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Okay, spoiler alert. Nobody's joining me on the podcast today. This is going to be a solo show. And today I'm going to talk to you about shame because it's a topic that comes up almost every day and every week in my coaching practice. And from the recordings that I've already done for this podcast, even those that have not yet been broadcast, it has reared its ugly head on more than one occasion. And so I really felt like that I just wanted to stop and dedicate some time to this conversation about shame at the beginning of my whole podcast journey, because I think it is something that we might need to go back to multiple times. I know I've dealt with shame, and I know that every other designer, workroom, and business owner that I've spoken with has had some version of it at some point in their business journey. And the faster that we deal with it, the faster we're able to get the profitable business that we really desire. So please don't stop the podcast. Please don't think, oh, I don't really want to hear this. It's negative. It's depressing. Please stop and listen, because what I want to share with you is that there is hope. And I'm hoping and know that through this podcast today, I can help you remove your shame. I promise. Stick with me. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Okay, let's jump in. Take a minute, and I want you to think about your last mistake. I'm going to give you just a second. Think about the last mistake. And if you do that, you probably remember it well. How do you physically feel when you're remembering it? Does it maybe make you a bit sick to your stomach? Are you feeling your heart pounding, your hands sweaty? Do you feel like almost like your shoulders are drawn up to your ears, or that this need to run the other way or to block the memory? Do you even kind of feel like shrinking back, maybe out of disgust? All of that is the feeling of shame. So let's talk about what shame is and what shame does. The dictionary defines shame as a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior. A feeling of humiliation or distress. Does that maybe describe what you were feeling? Caused by the consciousness, meaning an awareness, right, of wrong or foolish behavior. And so now let's talk about what shame does to us. So now that we know what it is, what does it do to us? Well, the first thing it does is shame weighs us down. That feeling of sadness or anxiety or embarrassment, uncomfortableness, that idea that we need to shrink or back away, all of that weighs on us. And while we might think that ignoring it is the best thing to do, it might seem maybe even like self-preservation, it never makes shame go away. It only serves to make that experience feel darker and then to make it feel worse. And if we stay in this place that we're hiding, where we're kind of not wanting to deal with something, the sad part is it could be easy to stay there and not take responsibility head on going forward. We'll talk about in a few minutes how to remove shame. Most people will say they feel lighter. And you can tell it's almost like a heavy, damp blanket, just like a heaviness that weighs on you. The second thing shame does is it creates negativity. It lingers. It hangs around. It's dark. It's the glasses that we now put on to see our other experiences through. And I would tell you that that's cloudy. That is dulled for sure. We might hear in our head things like, God, you're a failure. What a disgrace. How could you? That was so stupid. And let's be honest, we don't need anybody else to beat us up because we've got that job covered all by ourselves. Can you say hello, downward spiral? That negative replayed, because it goes on over and over and over in our heads, and it never builds us up. It never puts us in a position of power or authority or the ability to make change. It just keeps us pushed down, frightened, scared, embarrassed, all those terrible things. Crowding in a corner, or, crouching, it's terrible. The third thing shame can do is create blame. And so sometimes, we might not want to take ownership. And so we start blaming everything and everybody else. Or maybe we do turn all the barrels on ourselves, and all the shame is about us. And so we are blaming ourselves, which kicks off the negative talk again. And not only is it negative talk for us, but when you mix negativity in the blame game, we now can blame our team. We might blame a subcontractor or a vendor or the client, all these other things, instead of just dealing with it. And then that makes us pull away even more. Shame also creates self-doubt. I've seen many entrepreneurs make a mistake that shamed them. And instead of dealing with it, they literally thought about quitting their entire business. Their confidence was so shaken by this one perception of a massive mistake, error, failure that they just did not think they could overcome. And it rattled them to their core. In other instances, especially surrounding financials, I've experienced exceptionally talented and bright business owners having the negative self-talk of being stupid, not able to work with numbers, capped at their potential, and a host of other terrible internal dialogue. And all of that was meant just to keep the shame going. And I promise you this, if shame is not dealt with, it always leads to further destruction, personally and professionally. And the self-doubt doesn't all of a sudden become confidence. That's just not how it works. Shame also causes extreme thinking. Not looking at things. Remember, we talked about putting on the negative glasses, not looking at the truth of what is, but almost creating our own idea of fear and negativity around it. And so that makes us see everything that way. We shrink back. We hold back in our extreme thinking because we so don't want to make that mistake again. And so we don't put ourselves out there. We might use phrases like never and always. But the fear that comes from repeating that shameful event ties us in knots. Make sure you go back and listen to the first episode with Silda Guglielmo, where we talk about fear and the cost of fear, as it relates to our profits. Shame is just a piece of that. If we are not careful with our extreme thinking and we don't deal with whatever is causing the stress of the shame, and maybe try to do a 180, if we can't do that, then we will end up trying to run our business while being shackled. And shackles can be in your mind. And that is often much more limiting than any physical restraint. Possibilities, change, and forward thinking, those don't even come up anymore. I know that I've probably already depressed you from this part of the conversation, but the good thing is we're not done with the podcast. And I can bet you, like I said at the beginning in the intro, all of us have experienced this at some point. We have all done something that we're like, gosh, I wish I had not done that, or I wish my team hadn't done that, or I wish we hadn't handled it in that way. I'm so embarrassed. I wish nobody would ever find out. I wish I could run the other direction. But we're not going to stop with just recognizing the feelings and recognizing the mistake or the failure. I want to teach you how to deal with it. I want to talk to you today about freeing you from the shackles of shame. There is hope after failure. There is hope after a mistake. And there is hope after shame. And there's hope after all the ravages that shame brings. So just keep listening, my friend, because I've got the key to get those shackles off. The first thing I want to suggest to you, we need to make peace with the idea that errors are a great part of our learning and a great part of our journey. When we learn to walk, when we learn to write, when we learn to ride a bike, when we've learned to do anything, we never started off doing it perfectly. We started off making errors and correcting them, errors and correcting them. And the same is true with your business, regardless of what your business model is. We all are going to make errors and we're going to adjust them. So make peace that errors are actually a stepping stone to your learning and to your success. They are showing that you are stretching and that you are reaching beyond your boundaries, that you are growing. Okay? Not one of us is perfect, and we never will be. And if anybody ever shows you, teaches you, or leads you to believe that they live a life of perfection, run, because they're a liar. Nobody's perfect. Nobody. Okay? Mistakes only become failures when we refuse to admit them and to adjust the course. Personally, my favorite book on this topic is called Failing Forward by John C. Maxwell. And in it, he says this: errors become mistakes when we perceive them and respond to them incorrectly. Mistakes become failures when we continually respond to them incorrectly. I'm going to read that one more time. Errors become mistakes when we perceive them and respond to them incorrectly. Mistakes become failures when we continually respond to them incorrectly. And that leads us to the next opportunity, to actually recognize the error early on, acknowledge it, and deal with it. You've probably heard that old saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, we're going to let that go. We're not going to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. It just doesn't work that way. And if you've listened to one episode of this podcast, or if you've ever heard me speak, you know that I preach that we have to own our business. Not just the pretty parts that we like that feed our soul, but the tough parts, the frustrating parts, the yucky parts, all of it. Just like home ownership. I think I've used that analogy before. I hate cleaning toilets. I hate doing laundry. I hate, and hate's a strong word, but let's say I strongly dislike doing all that. But the beautiful thing is I have it to do. The blessing is that I have it to do because it is part of owning my home. And that is the same way with our business. There are pieces and parts that we have to do that we don't always love, and owning it is part of it. I also think sometimes it's the hardest part, that acknowledgement. But if we don't do this, we're destined to move from error, to mistake, to failure, and then to stay stuck. And that's a horrible place to be. So we need to acknowledge where things went awry. Where did it go off the rails? And then let's make a plan to fix it. So far we've talked about make a peace with the idea that we're going to have errors, and then to recognize the error early on and make adjustments. And so now what I want to talk about is we need to pour on grace and forgiveness. That is another big theme that I, carry the flag for, grace and forgiveness. And why is that? Because if we don't forgive ourselves, we will have a difficult time forgiving others. And it's really weird. We think we forgive others, but we are heaping just hot coals on our head all the time, distress, frustration in our own lives by not giving ourselves the same grace that we think we're giving to other people. I always ask my students and coaching clients to pour grace on themselves because we are our own worst critic. And second, if we don't do that, we will stay shackled in shame. It might sound something like this. Yep, that didn't go like I hoped. I made a mistake here, here, and here. So I'm going to start by forgiving myself and my team. And then we're going to address how we can change the idea, the thought, the process, the task, or whatever we did so that we can get a different outcome. Because once you forgive yourself and your team, you strive to do differently. Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. And trust me in this, you can do better than staying crouched in a corner due to shame. You can do better than holding yourself back and seeing everything negatively. You can do better than thinking that you're dumb or stupid or less than, because shame creates all of that. And you have the power to get past it. All right, what's next? Now we need to set things right. Maybe we need to ask forgiveness of somebody else. Maybe we need to make up for a bad process or, a poor client interaction. Maybe we need to offer something to a vendor, a subcontractor, or to a client. There are many things that might be needed, but once we take responsibility, it's up to us to make things right. For us personally, it might be find a mentor, a coach, or some education. Do something that helps you not do the same negative thing again and to do it in a different way. There is such power in saying, I screwed up. I'm sorry. Let me fix it. Most of our clients, most of our subcontractors, vendors, employees, all of them, if they heard that, they would give us 9 times out of 10, they would give us an opportunity to make it right. And those that will give us no opportunity to make it right, that's actually a problem they have, not us. And so I just want to encourage you, this is not easy. I know I'm reading it in a step-by-step, or you're hearing it in a step-by-step approach. It's not easy, but it's doable and it's necessary. It is so necessary. Okay, so once we've done all of these things, we need to move past the shame. Not move forward or move on as if it didn't happen, because we've acknowledged it, but we've got to move past it, remembering that it happened, but keeping it reframed in a learning context. There are 3 questions that I use all the time to reframe my thinking. I use this with my clients. I use it in my own personal life. I use it in my business life. I use it with my kids, with my husband. I use it all the time, because what it does, these 3 reframing questions allow us to get out of the weeds. It allows us to step back and look at the whole forest, look at the whole picture, a broader view. Try it, okay? But here are the 3 questions. The first one is, what worked really well in this situation? So what went well and I would do it again? The second question, what didn't work so well and what would I change, what would I add, or what would I delete? And then the third question, what did I learn? And every time we sit and take this from an error before it hits the mistake, the minute we get to what did I learn and what could I add, change, or delete, that is empowering. If we catch it between mistake and failure, it's empowering. But even if we get to failure, it's empowering because we won't do it again the same way. Now, you may make 50 other errors, mistakes, and failures, but the goal is not to keep making the same one over and over and over. So try these 3 readjusting questions to pull yourself out of the weeds and get a clearer view. What worked well, and I would do it again. What didn't work so well, and I would change, add, or delete. And what did I learn? Lastly, I want to say we need to be good to ourselves. I mean, good grief. Look, we are running a business, and running a business is hard work. It is not for the faint of heart or for those who don't want their voice to be heard. It takes an open mindset to learn, to share, to forgive, and to keep going, and to get back up when we've been knocked down. Sometimes you might need a helping hand to get you back up. Imagine yourself standing in the waves of an ocean, and that water, that big wave out of nowhere just knocks you down. That's not what causes you to drown. It's the inability to get back up and stay underwater that causes destruction of life. It's not the knocking it down, right? It's what happens after that. So if you are unable to get yourself back up, surround yourself with other people that can help do that for you, okay? You want to make sure you are in an environment that allows you to get back up. Create affirmations that make you feel empowered. Spend time around people who encourage you. Again, create an environment of support, not one that continually makes you feel less than. And that includes social media. If social media is creating stress for you, take a break. Comparison is good if you're looking at it to improve, but it is not good if you allow it to create thoughts of negativity and thoughts that are destroying to you. That's just not worth it. And so here's my big hug for all of you in this. We all, as we said earlier, have dealt with shame, will deal with it, or in the midst of it right now. And I can tell you, making peace with mistakes and letting go of shame will allow you to move forward, to learn and to grow in the direction that you desire. So now I want to talk about shame as it relates to profits. If you're spiraling down in shame, you are not spending time doing what's most important for your business because it is taking up prime mental real estate. Even the act of trying not to think about shame creates its own shame because you stopped and thought about it, and then your mental resources that could have been directed at client work or building your business or putting yourself out there or trying something new, they're all thwarted. And I am begging you to stop the madness. Understanding your financials is a huge shame producer, larger than any other topic in business in my experience. Most of you would be able to get over shame associated with maybe you projected a budget that was too low, or you projected an idea that it was going to take 10 hours and it took 20, or you were embarrassed with something that, showed up broken or damaged, or the client didn't like it, or you were working without a scope of work, or you worked with a non-ideal client. All of those are errors/mistakes/failures. But I have not seen one of those create the same level of shame in business owners as the shame of not knowing where you are financially. And that can leave you devastated. It leaves you feeling less than. It leaves you feeling stupid and dumb. And you don't have to feel like that. Ask yourself, why? Why do you think that is one area where business owners don't want to open the door, turn on the lights, and clean out the proverbial financial closet? Why do we think that is? And what's the cost to you in your business to stay in shame surrounding your financials? Are you willing to keep paying that price and feeling the shackles? What would it be worth to you to let that go and to admit that you need help and to actively get it? To tell yourself that you can understand, you can take control, and you can do things differently. To me, the price of freedom, forgiveness, understanding, stress relief, joy, and peace, I think that's priceless. How about you? I encourage you today to do something to remove shame in your life. Admit it, acknowledge it, work through it, create a plan, build a supportive team, but don't let it keep you down. Don't let it keep you from reaching your full potential. Don't let it keep you from learning something new, whether it's how to understand your financials or how to, use new technology or how to use software. Don't let it stop you. Remove it, stop it, make a plan, and move forward. Build the business that you want to build. I hope this episode has been helpful to you. Please be kind to yourself and your team. Deal with shame. And if you need help with removing shame from the financials in your company or any other aspect, please don't wait. The cost is really high. You can reach out to me at Michele, that's Michele with one L, at scarletthreadconsulting.com, and just let me know if you need help removing shame. I'd love to help you. Peace is right around the corner. Thanks, everybody. And remember, profit doesn't happen by accident.